I'm Robert Mazur. I'm providing this outline about my speaking and consulting services in an audio file rather than a video file for one simple reason. There are people who want me dead. For 27 years, I was a U.S. federal agent working on international money laundering and organized crime cases. 5 years of my 27 years of law enforcement service involved my taking two separate long-term undercover journeys into the underworld as a money launderer, infiltrating major criminal organizations involved in the laundering of hundreds of billions in illicit profits. In both of those operations, I climbed through a portal of the real world into the underworld at a level within criminal enterprises rarely experienced by an undercover agent even once, let alone twice. I've written books about both of those underworld journeys. My first book, the New York Times bestseller, The Infiltrator, shares the story about my 2-year undercover infiltration of both Pablo Escobar's Medellín cartel and the Bank of Credit and Commerce International, BCCI, an institution that was once the 7th largest privately held bank in the world, with a presence in 72 countries. To Medellín drug kingpins and BCCI executives, I was Robert Mazur, a trusted Italian-American mob-connected money launderer. During this first covert journey, I was taught endless details about money laundering techniques by corrupt lawyers, bankers, businessmen, and financial service providers. That 2-year undercover operation led to the prosecution of more than 100 drug traffickers and money launderers, including senior executives of BCCI and several of Pablo Escobar's most trusted and important direct reports. The Infiltrator book became the basis for an internationally released film by the same name, starring Bryan Cranston. Most recently, I have authored a second undercover memoir, The Betrayal, which addresses a separate undercover assignment that involved my infiltrating Colombia's Cali cartel and the underworld of Panama, again posing as a launderer. The Betrayal details how the underworld took me to school again, sharing intricate details about many additional sophisticated money laundering techniques, including extensive trade-based money laundering methodologies. The achievements of this second long-term undercover infiltration, although significant, were seriously undermined as a result of corruption within U.S. law enforcement. That corruption came at the hands of one of my former colleagues, who, unbeknownst to us all, was on the payroll of the Cali cartel, involved in their money laundering, drug trafficking, and corruption-related endeavors. That officer compromised my undercover identity to the underworld and nearly got me killed. His prosecution became my obsession. While remaining undercover, I assisted in the development of critical evidence against that dirty cop, which led to his receiving a prison sentence of 11 years. The film rights of the Betrayal book have been acquired by a major studio that has engaged me and others to attempt to develop The Betrayal into a film that is intended to become a sequel to the Infiltrator film. Since retiring from government service, in connection with my work as an expert witness, I've constantly studied and analyzed all aspects of the money laundering world. I've authored dozens of articles and white papers that have appeared in major media outlets including the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. I've also been a contributor to programming about money laundering, drug trafficking, and corruption that has aired on NBC, CBS, ABC, CNN, PBS, the BBC, and other major networks. For any client that engages me to speak or provide training, I partner with client leaders to uniquely design my audience message and content to maximize the areas of interest identified by the client. I have an extensive library from which I draw to create customized presentations, and I add to that library every month to include details about new and emerging prosecutions and methodologies. My presentations have been characterized as edutainment because I strive to blend education takeaways with exciting real-life details from my undercover experiences portrayed in my books and films. My keynote presentation and masterclasses can address many different issues. The most often used laundering methods, companies most often abused to launder, the key geographic areas that carry the highest money laundering risk, transaction patterns that are red flags of high money laundering risk, typical global money laundering routes. I often dissect the most recent significant money laundering cases, and I address the role of cryptocurrency and digital currency in the money laundering world. Some of my master classes have offered deep dives into issues concerning trade-based money laundering techniques, how black market money exchanges operate around the globe, and how to establish and enhance sound AML policies and procedures. For law enforcement agencies, I often deliver presentations and master classes about money laundering techniques, managing informants, managing undercover operations, how officers can enhance their undercover techniques, and the techniques and strategies used by defense counsel in an effort to attack undercover prosecutions and undercover agents in the eyes of jurors. In either traditional settings, corporate retreats, or fireside chats, I share secrets from my undercover training that are applicable to everyone regardless of their profession. Those secrets focus on how one can maximize their ability to establish rapport and communicate. The reality is, if your ability to establish rapport and communicate is at its best, your business and personal life will be too. I offer insights into 9 key steps one should take to communicate effectively with peers, subordinates, superiors, clients, and those in one's personal life. I've had the pleasure of presenting to tens of thousands of attendees at hundreds of presentations. My presentations are often made to professional associations in the financial sector, financial service providers, banks, law firms, and law enforcement agencies. For a detailed list of organizations that have previously engaged me to present, please visit the appearances page on my website, www.robertmazur.com. At that website, you can obtain detailed information about my speaking, consulting, and expert witness services. You can find letters and comments offered by clients about my speaking services, and you can find extensive information about my books, the Infiltrator film, and media reviews about my work. On the publications page of my website, you can find many dozens of articles about me, as well as many articles I've written that have been published.